Has Hanson claimed another victim? Stay tuned and find out.
Bog Panda.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bog Panda. I am Dr. Mike, Official Pagan on everything. Joining me, of course, as always.
Hi, everyone. This is Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. And if you give a chance and are so inclined, we would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to the Bog Panda YouTube channel, maybe give a video to a like, leave us a few comments, let us know what you'd like to have us cover, and take a look at our merch store. Maybe buy a t-shirt, the ones that we can get them to approve. Not that I'm bitter.
Well, today it's going to be a quick one. We're back talking about Alice, one of our favorite topics. And there was a surprising announcement this week. His longtime guitar player, Nita Strauss, is leaving the band, having finished up the current leg of their tour. What were your thoughts on this, sir?
So I was really surprised and disappointed. She's been a fantastic addition. Orianthi, basically quit mid-tour, resigned mid-tour at a period of time, and so they were in a scramble for a while to replace her. And while Orianthi was and is a tremendously talented guitarist, for a Alice Cooper stage presence, it was just not her thing. She just the kind of energy level was different, the approach. But I said tremendous musician, absolutely. So Nita comes in, another tremendous musician, but also total Alice energy. Bit in kind of with the band, super awesome. So it was just a great bit. Seemed to truly be enjoying it, and so kind of out of the blue this comes. Now I don't know how long we just find out about it now. I don't know how long Alice and crew have known about it. You know, timing seems very friendly to them that they were on a European tour and now they're coming back to the States. And so while they're in that transition time, maybe that has given Alice time to figure out who to kind of plug it in the spot. We'll talk a little more about the need for that in a second. But I was surprised. You?
I was really surprised, mainly because not so much. I mean, Alice is Alice. Like, that's the show. That's who you're paying to go and see. And as great as we think the current lineup of the band is, they are still just his backing band. So that somebody would leave at some point does make sense. You're going to get rotations in there. And I'm sure they're paid well for what they're doing, but it's nowhere near what Alice makes off of that. And there's a great documentary about like touring musicians and stuff. And Nita Strauss is actually in that documentary. I believe she has a small part in that. And some of them talk about like what they get paid, and it's way less than you think it is for most people, if you're not familiar with that kind of stuff. I've known people who've toured with gigantic bands and made a few $100 a week doing that, playing to tens of thousands of people, and they were getting paid a few $100 a week. Because typically, even in a more traditional band situation where you're not backing up one person who's the star of it, from a business structure standpoint, band is a business. Once you make more than a few $1,000s, I think it's $7,000 a year or something like that, whatever it is, where you have to incorporate, somebody is the owner of that business, and then somebody else can be like a board member of that business, but essentially the rest of the band become employees of the business at some point. And this is where a lot of bands break up and members change out and things like that. That's the part of it that a lot of people don't realize. And you'll see, you know, fans will complain that like, oh, such and such a member treats it like a business. It literally is. You have to. It's the legal structure of taxes and things like that. So somebody becomes an employee at that point. So it's not surprising that people will leave bands. What's surprising to me is this is coming shortly after the announcement that she's playing on the next Alice Cooper record. So after all this time of not getting a studio record with her, which again, I could see her leaving and saying, you know, I haven't played on any studio records and things like that, and wanting to go and do more of a studio thing, especially because she has her own solo record out and stuff like that now. I could totally see that, but this is leading up to a studio record that she does play on. So that's why it's surprising to me.
Yeah, I wonder how that's all going to play out now, because this very much at least one of the two, if not both, of the upcoming Alice albums. We know at least the first one was very much a band collaboration. So she'd likely have writing credits as well as performing credits. So it'll, and I don't know how far they are through that. I know it's all written, but I don't know how much of it's been laid down. So yeah, that part was surprising because it was kind of like her largest involvement. I don't know if that'll continue or not. She was trying to knock down in an Instagram post, some of the likely rumors that were out there. She goes, "It's not like I've had a falling out with Alice. It's not that she's pregnant." Those are all the things that she was kind of throwing out as things there. She also canceled her solo dates as well, but then she was also quick to point out, "You're going to see me on stage pretty soon." So I think probably in a little bit of time we'll start to understand better kind of where things are going. If she's just kind of from a career standpoint shifted and said, "This is more what I kind of want to do now." She certainly seemed to be enjoying her time there, and she was getting along. But this gets to the one part is that she's a fantastic addition, but you've got Tommy Hendrickson and Ryan Roxy in a band that up until she joined, and I think Orianthi was the same, they only went with two guitarists before. So for Alice to have three guitarists, there's a lot of really cool riffs in Alice songs and all that, but you've got to start to work to kind of sort out, okay, who's taking what on these different things. How do you kind of make sure the three guitars play together well? And I believe Tommy Hendrickson played a huge role in kind of orchestrating that all out to kind of who goes in. But you certainly have, particularly with Ryan Roxy, someone who's served as the lead guitar, the main guitar guy for Alice for a long time. Also took a break for a few years and came back. And so, it may be that he'll just go back to the two guitar lineup at this point in time, which his stuff works just fine with the original Alice Cooper group with two guitars and a bass. So,
yeah, I mean, nothing. So, and they do a great job, and everything sounds great with it. There's nothing though in Alice's songs that requires three guitars. Now they may continue that way just because now that's what they're used to for such a long stretch of time, but there's nothing that really requires it. So to use a band that I know, Guns N' Roses, they were doing three guitars for probably a decade for their live shows. And then for their current incarnation, which has some of the older members as well as some of the later incarnation members put together as sort of like an all-star version of the band they've been touring with now since shortly before the pandemic. It's just two main guitar players, and both of the keyboard players can grab a guitar and do some stuff if they need to, but it's just two guitar players. And Richard has been asked in interviews about that and stuff, and he's like, honestly, there were quite a few songs, particularly the earlier Guns N' Roses stuff, which are more stripped down, where they had to find reasons to have a third guitar player on there. Like you were saying, trying to orchestrate it where everybody played something. And it really wasn't necessary though for those songs. So it's really only some of the later, more complex songs where that really worked out. So for a big chunk of the set, they were just trying to find ways to spread it around. So it's not really necessary, even for, and nothing against Alice's band, but the guitar parts in Guns N' Roses songs are way more technical as far as like lengthy solos and things like that. Like it's much more technical, and that doesn't require three guitar players. So there's no reason, like you're saying, they can't continue with two guitar players.
Right. Yeah. It's not like the sound's going to be hollowed out because for years that was the lineup. It was guitarist prime and second guitarist, and like the Roxy played that lead role for a big chunk of time that I've been seeing them. But Eric Dover's been in the mix, Jason Hook. So they've had quite a few good folks. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it's critical actually. It's not like she didn't contribute anything and they don't need to replace her. It's just they made it work with three good guitarists, three very good guitarists, and they just had to kind of figure out how to make that work. And it actually may be a little bit easier now when they go back to what would be more of a traditional Alice Cooper lineup from there. So it'll be fun to see from there. But good old Chuck Garrick keeps plugging along now. Is, I think, member of longest uninterrupted standing because he's the one there, and so he's kind of Alice's rock on there. And so yeah, so we just wanted to kind of jump in, wish her well. We'll miss her contribution. She really added. She was a fun addition to the band and the stage presence, and she's a shredder. Boy, she could certainly play. So I'm sure she'll do extremely well with whatever she's doing. Our theory, though, is that she has been brainwashed by Hanson, as Mike mentioned at the beginning. At least that's my theory. My theory is that Hanson has drugged her and convinced her to join and going to make her change her last name to Hanson, and she is going to become a member of Hanson. And even she can't make Hanson good.
Yeah, Kelly shared that theory with me earlier. I definitely think that's a strong possibility. Another rumor that was posed on some sites was that she's joining Demi Lovato's band.
But we're not done yet. We have a few more updates for you after we recorded this that kind of made sense to attach to this video. So I'll start. Kane Roberts, in the video you just watched, I was like, they probably don't even need to add another guitarist because Alice has done it before with 2 guitarists. And what do I know? They're going to stick with 3 guitarists, and Kane Roberts has been added to the lineup. Kane composed a large part of Constrictor, yay, and sadly a large part of Raise Your Fist and Yell, boo, for me at least. So but he's also the master of the submachine gun guitar, or giant gun guitar, so hopefully that'll be making another appearance there. Big fella, and a good guitarist, so kind of nice to see him back.
Absolutely. And I apologize to everyone in advance. We had some, especially me, had some technical difficulties, so I am doing this from my phone, but I have a nice Kelly backdrop, so that's really all that matters. Right. So I apologize for any audio or video quality. This is balanced on a whiskey glass in front of me, so it's got to be a weird angle and probably not sound great, so I apologize. Yeah, I was excited. I mean, like we'd said, there's probably not a necessity for a third guitar player, but if you're going to get one, I think the guy who played on Constrictor is a good choice. Plus, and I'm sure at this stage, because they're already out on the road, there's probably not going to be any dramatic changes to the set list. But who knows going forward if we might see a couple more Constrictor tracks in the playlist, just because you got him as a part of the band if he's moving forward beyond this leg of dates. So that's pretty exciting. And then they also confirmed the rumor that Nita Strauss would be joining Demi Lovato's band, and that was confirmed by her appearing with Demi Lovato on a late night talk show program appearance. Her playing her rock stuff that is going to be coming out. And nothing against Demi Lovato. I'm honestly not familiar with their music, so I have no real opinion on it one way or the other. When you read quotes though about it being heavier, and then you get like a pop punk song, that's not exactly what I thought. What were your thoughts though of the song? And now that it's confirmed that it's not Hanson, at least.
Yeah. So he dodged a bullet there. Or Nita dodged a bullet there.
It's really funny because at the time we're recording this, I think Hanson's playing like tonight or next weekend or something in Philadelphia.
And you're not out protesting?
No. Honestly, I would have gone had I known that it was happening. I would have checked out the Hanson show, but I didn't know in advance. I got an update about this like yesterday. So,
yeah, and I'm sure tickets are hard to come by for the Hanson boys. But yeah, so I'm a little puzzled, and you got to assume that Nita's making the right call for her, where she wants to go, what she wants to do, and this seems to be a better fit for her. But in the spirit of, she certainly seems like a rocker. When you go back to the last 8 years with Alice, and before that Iron Maidens and all that kind of stuff, it was unabashedly pretty heavy stuff. Where Demi has been, well, I'm also not particularly familiar with her catalog. Does not leap to mind when you think about heavy music. And the song that was on the late night show also didn't pin my ears back in terms of heaviness. But for whatever, and it does seem almost like a lateral to me. that she's not, she was in a band backing a very, very, very big name. Demi Lovato is not a small name, but it just kind of seems lateral. But more power to her. If this is what she wants, cool. Hope it goes well.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of puzzles me with it. And again, nothing against Demi Lovato. I'm honestly really not familiar enough with her music to have an opinion one way or another. So this isn't a shot at her or anything like that. But like Kelly said, this is kind of a lateral move. I mean, Alice is a big band. She's not joining a band. She's moving from one backing position to another backing position. So, I was trying to look up to see if I could get an idea of like, okay, well, maybe she played on the Demi Lovato record, which would make sense then that she wants to go out and do this tour. I couldn't find anything. Now the computer's turned on. I couldn't find anything indicating that, though. So if that's the case, there's nothing that's been announced about that, which you would think it would be, especially now.
Yeah.
This is officially a part of the band. You would think she'd be like, I played on the record, but nothing. So there's nothing to indicate that that's the case. I did try to look up, what does an Alice Cooper band member make kind of thing. So to see if there's maybe a big change there. So a couple of things that I did come across, which I kind of already knew. So the average income of a professional musician, like nationally and internationally touring musician, is just shy of $50,000. And that was pretty much across all sources I could find the agreed upon number. Now, what's crazy about that, of course, is there are bands who never make any money in their entire career, no substantial amount of money. And there are bands who make millions and millions of dollars. The last Guns N' Roses tour, for example, grossed over $1 billion. They are the second band, I think, ever to do that. Behind, it was either U2 or the Rolling Stones had done it before them. So they're the second ever to make $1 billion.
And
so
largely due to support from Bog Panda.
Right. And I'm pretty sure that was mostly us who did that. You're welcome, guys. But so, I mean, there's a giant and everything in between. I mean, you have, touring cover bands and you have bands who make $1 billion. So it's all over the place. So to come up with any kind of average does seem hard. Just shy of 50 actually kind of sounds right to me, though, because I am a musician, I know a lot of professional touring musicians. That doesn't sound that far off. And I know people on far ends because we know Guns N' Roses, and I know bands who make, not enough to get them to their next show. So, and they're losing money on it. So I know people on far ends of the spectrum. I would say that sounds about right. I would think touring with Alice Cooper, you're probably doing a little better than the average. But again, probably not what the guys in Guns N' Roses make, kind of thing. So better than average, probably not super high tier. And that seemed to be backed up by, I wasn't able to find what the members make, but I was able to find grosses for his shows, which clock in at around $100,000 a show, which is nothing to slouch at. To be full transparency, I've never made anywhere near that on a show, and I make more than the average. So I've never made $100,000 off. We've never grossed $100,000 off of a show. So not even close to that. So I would think she's making more than the average. Demi Lovato is a big artist, but with the kind of draw that Alice has and the ability to just headline major festivals everywhere, I think it probably balances out. Yep. So like you were saying, it feels like it's probably a lateral move. Like, unless for some reason, if Demi Lovato really wanted her and made her, a really substantial offer, and that's awesome if that's the case. I can't imagine it's that much more money, though.
Yeah, it's all conjecture on our part, but I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think she might, but what I didn't impress was all the research you did. I didn't do much, but I would kind of wonder things like album sales to kind of say, does Demi have maybe a little more of that juice coming in to give her a little more income to kind of apply that, I mean, Detroit Stories, it was, number 2 on the heavy metal charts, number 1 for a day on some of the things. So it was his highest charting album ever. shockingly enough. So, I mean, I don't have the raw sale figures there, but I think, he does okay in terms of album sales. It's not, he should do better. I mean, more people should be buying his stuff. But, that said, I think she does okay on that. So maybe that gave her a little more capital to work with. So I mean, we don't know. It could have been a good, smart financial move. It could have been, hey, I want to kind of branch out a little bit. I've done the straight metal stuff. I've done stuff here with Alice for 8 years. I want to do something a little bit different, get exposed to another fan base, because I'm guessing there's not a huge overlap between the Demi Lovato concert goer and the Alice Cooper concert goer.
Probably not.
Because I think a sample size of 2 here. We've both seen Alice. I don't think either of us have seen Demi, and I think that's trend's going to continue.
Absolutely true. And that was the other thing I was thinking. I wonder how much of this is more future planning for her own career, because it's getting her out to a younger audience and a different audience that she can maybe pick up more fans in for her solo work. So that could be the idea behind this too. So, in a lot of the press releases around stuff with this, they were touting that her solo record had, was it 7 or 7.5 million global streams for an album. So that's good, especially for like a hard rock and metal related thing. It's not like gold records or anything like that though. So she might be looking at this as a way to, push that forward. So for perspective on that, my new album has over 8 million streams now. So we already passed. So I could see this, and when I was thinking about that, that's when I was like, the Demi Lovato move makes sense to me, in that she's opening herself up to a different audience. So how far is that going to start pushing Nita Strauss's solo material?
Are you prepared to share with the audience you're joining Demi Lovato?
I'm ready. Demi Lovato, sign me up.
There you go. Excellent, cool. Well, we had done the show when the news had broken. We were just kind of getting our stuff lined up, and prior to us publishing the video, this other news came out, and it just made more sense for us to kind of tack this additional information on the end of it, so you can get kind of the whole enchilada in terms of what we know right now. So just wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from this is, if you're a Nita Strauss fan, there's plenty of opportunity to go and see her live. If you're an Alice fan, we're getting something really cool with Kane returning to the band. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a couple Constrictor songs. I think Kelly and I are among the few cheerleaders for that record, but more people need to check it out. It's a fun album. So if nothing else comes of this and a few more people check out Constrictor, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And just like to close off with, the world needs guts.